All right, so I've been watching some YouTube channels that have some existential uh, presentations. Let me see if I can find some of my search history here. I am just so burnt out. Little Alex talking about some of her stuff, existential type stuff. Let's look at some of my search history. Feeling inadequate, foolishness galore. Then further down here, I was listening to You Can and You Will Get Back Up Again by Haley. Anyway, I've just been listening to some stuff. You know, I kind of do choose my influences, if you will, but I decided tonight I was either going to push record and just start talking, or I was actually going to script something out. And that was a struggle, but I decided, I'm a little bit better at writing than I am at just talking off the cuff, although I do like to do either. It's a lot more work to take the time, slow down my mind that tends to have its own stream of consciousness, and write something. Now, it still has that stream of consciousness flow to it, so it's still probably not totally line upon line, precept upon precept. It's probably not built like a structural essay per se. In fact, a college professor would probably give me hopefully a D instead of an F. Hopefully at least a C, though. I don't know. What are your thoughts on my essay? Speaking your mind in troubled times. This all kind of began the last couple days. I've been doing other kinds of work at work. And I'm working, but I do have time to think. I'm kind of in the RMA department right now, kind of dealing with returned items just the last couple days. And I used to do that at my prior work, actually. In fact, my prior employment in Rapid City, I was actually processing RMAs. So it's been a while since I've been doing more of this indirect labor, but that's not the subject of today's video. But yeah, my mind was going many different places. But I thought, how can I tie some of these various themes together into sort of an existential essay? I was going to say a conversation, but I'm actually just reading this. So let's begin without any further ado. Speaking your mind in troubled times. So you're going to have to forgive me. I'm going to have to read this, and I don't know if my prescription probably needs to be renewed here. I'm going to get up right up here and read this. I'll extend the mic. Maybe if I made my screen a little bigger, that might help. So I'm reading off of my notes app. And I could read it on my phone, or I could read it on my laptop. I guess we're just going to read it on the laptop here. I'm going to cozy right up to you and start reading. Speaking your mind in troubled times. Sometimes I wonder if I should speak my mind in troubled times. Well, I know that a filter of love and propriety is essential, but what exactly was filtered out if it was anything but love in the first place? If we pause enough to be honest, we find ourselves in an existential crisis. Okay, let's upgrade it to an existential dilemma. Yeah, take heart, that's all it is. As for politics, I know better than to discuss that in any detail, though the world certainly relies upon debate and dialogue and the like. And having a bird with two wings to balance out the momentum and power of flight is imperative to the two-party system. Sure it is. Yet I find it to be true too often when they say the devil is in the details. Why is it then, when I think of politics and when I think of disassembling a bomb with a mess of wires, I pretty much get the same level of situational ethics and pretzel logic with which to contend? And why is it, if nothing else, when it comes to politics and debate, you get this never-ending wave after wave of radio, talk show rhetoric, confusing the pendulum as to which way it ought to swing? Oh, but rest assured, they are sure which way it ought to go. As if two children were struggling and laying hold of the clock's pendulum. I mean, damn, they're just breaking the clock. And it is true, we've never been in times quite like these, even if there really is nothing new under the sun. But those children fighting over the swing and sway of the clock's pendulum, they're not children, are they? More like lawmakers with persuasive and convincing arguments. Proverbs 18:17, the first to plead his case seems right until another comes and examines him. This seems to be the nature of so many things. Don't get me wrong, I think some things should be more obvious as to how right or wrong they are. Nevertheless, society has been wrestling and wrestling with who's right and who's wrong for far too long. And it's like we've churned up our own kind of monster in the making. And lo and behold, it is washed up upon our shores. What do we do now? You can only hope the monster is just lying there harmless, lifeless, dead. Well, politicians are known for lying and being nearly lifeless, but not in the way I just described. Nevertheless, we are made alive with our passions, our zealous advocacy we must hold to, and aspire others to do the same. This is how progress is made. And perhaps to this I cannot argue. Fair enough. And certainly there are things we are sure should never be compromised. Things which are essential to a healthy society. Or it could just be the diplomacy of how to win friends and influence people, or passing along the right books and the right wisdom as it applies to such knowledge. Wisdom does trump knowledge, you know, but I still say it's a little bit less important than whatever vital ingredient we are missing in this postmodern age. Is that the age we are living in now? And often we are probably right in so many of our endeavors and pursuits of justice. Did we actually learn to love still remains a much broader question. Now, is that some high and lofty platitude, or is it really the question of whether or not we learn to get past our ultimate demise, our own downfall? I do see that we must stand firm and resolute for truth. One's life review will give the ultimate review as to the validity of just how well that mingled with our love. Oh, I'm not perfect. I can see I have some faults. Maybe I'd be too soft on some issues and let myself and the whole country get run over. This whole question of beatitudes and pacifism versus nationalism and triumphalism is something I've given consideration to. They each have immense value within their own sphere. I am not blind to the following. The Beatitudes given on the Sermon on the Mount are pure in their form and probably transcend form altogether, whereas the spirit of conquest and victory seem to be relegated to the political arena. Except it isn't. It seems to be blended into today's Christian nationalism, onward Christian soldiers. Before you think I'm about to harp on that too much, I won't. Though I'm not blind to its faults, we really haven't turned the other cheek. But how could we, in the face of the threats of annihilation or becoming extinct or canceled, did we at least come to the rescue to those who were perishing? Sometimes I think we did the right thing. Sometimes it ended up very wrong in hindsight. You can fill in the blank with your own examples. Current events, past events. I don't know. There's too many questions there on either side of that equation. I do believe better days are ahead. All that's left is this hope and this positivity. All that's left is this hope and this positivity. Otherwise, we are doomed. But I'm not stupid, and I have an overabundance of nuance to try and make this plausible and reasonable. I would never want to embrace the naivety that there is a perfect way to navigate this world, but I am sure there ought to be a better way than what we've seen. I think we've all seen a bit too much trouble. Don't get me started with the struggle of the family and how family is an integral part of holding this whole living structure, this whole living organism together. I hope, therefore, that men and women can come to a healthy and balanced perspective as to the cause of our irreconcilable differences that end in far too many divorces, and each going their own way. Well, that was a heck of a way to end this essay, if I can rightfully call it that. Am I just going to leave you there? Well, sure. It's not such a bad thing, you see. I'm sure you have plenty of perplexities and answers of your own. I think it best we not get too caught up in either. Respect the mystery, but in the whole process of debate and trying to understand and figure stuff out, we do need some practical answers that aren't stupid. I think we'd all like some relief. For some reason, this line of reasoning brings up gratefulness. Gratefulness isn't just fashionable. It's not just a fad, and please don't make it that. What are you grateful for today? What am I grateful for today? Is this our lifeline? Now, still, even with my thoughts kind of subject to some time and refining it, still was kind of a little bit of a roller coaster ride if you're one that wants things really laid out and logical, line upon line, precept upon precept upon precept format. But I know, there you have it. Those are some of my thoughts laid out on paper, except it was laid out on a screen. It probably would have been maybe a little bit better if I actually laid it out on paper, like actual pen and paper. Now, I didn't go that far into the past way of doing things, but at least I gave a moment to pause and reflect. What really are my thoughts? Where have they been going? What am I willing to share? Because, yeah, speaking your mind in troubled times can get you in a lot of trouble, especially as we kind of go along this path, and I'm not getting into any of that. Hell no! But I think I've given enough hints that no matter where you stand with religion, politics, spirituality, and I kind of want to have my platform open so it's not just a bunch of Christians in a echo chamber. And no, it probably wouldn't actually be an echo chamber. We'd all be arguing about something, but there still would be echo chambers here. In another place over here would be an echo chamber, and it would just get my head. It's not just Christians, guys. It's just this whole experience of my life for 53 years has been kind of everyone's got their own insight. There's a way that seems right unto a man, but the ends thereof are death. And I misquoted that slightly. I think the end thereof is death or something like that. But I wasn't trying to make this a religious conversation per se, but it does kind of end up being a part of what I say. And I really would encourage you to listen to some of these people that I briefly mentioned. I think one of them was, this is a really good conversation I listened to, although I won't lie, I can't remember the exact nature of it. Feeling inadequate, foolishness galore. That was one of them. There's this other one further down here. I'm looking at my history. You can and you will get back up again. Haley, Haylee. I may put that one in the description box, but anyway, I thought I'd go ahead and offer some of my thoughts in a little more scripted format, so it wasn't just all off the cuff. Now, it wasn't much different. I only put a little bit of thought into this. It's not like I put hours and hours of thought into this, but probably about an hour, so I could refine it at least to that extent. I don't know, what do you think? I read it, and obviously it didn't help with like the life or the livelihood of what I was conveying, but at least the thoughts were presented maybe a little more clearly, and maybe there was some transition to my thoughts from one to the other, from sentence to sentence. I might have offered a little more bridging my thoughts together, stringing them along in some flow that was maybe, I described it as a roller coaster, but I think it was like a roller coaster with shocks on it. At least you got some shock value. No, you got not shock value. The opposite of that, hopefully. It was kind of stabilized with just some better streaming of my thoughts and so on and so forth. But I won't bore you any further with this video. I do think some of my thoughts were actually pretty good. I probably could have read it a little bit better, but I'm not going to reread it right now. It's kind of getting late for that. But I hope you got something out of it. You value some of my input here, my contribution to the world as it is, so that we can live in a better world someday. Each of us contribute something. Throw your starfish back in the ocean so they don't dry up on the beach. Okay. I made a difference for that one. So hopefully somebody was able to listen to this and go, wow, yeah, there is some hope, and there are things to look forward to. All right. We'll see you in the next one. Well, that's the Amazon one. If I just replaced the battery on that, it would work.